Welcome back to Shit That Goes On in Our Heads. This is part 2 of Marco from Sonic Halls featuring Move.
I just wanna I just wanna go crazy, no way out. I'm shaking up
Because here's what happened. So, and I'm not going to name anybody here, but don't get people sued.
We appreciate that.
That's hard
Good
to
looking out.
say. Don't get sued.
Yeah, we nearly did, but yeah, no, it was that bad. But
Wow.
There's only a few doctors in at least the country, maybe the world, that like are good at fixing this condition, like do the surgery for it. And the doctor I went with it as well, I had like nerves that needed to be fixed as well. So I fixed that as well. But so I had to go to Connecticut, as I mentioned, to get the surgery. So I went to Connecticut, and we had the option of 2 hospitals in Connecticut. Same doctor, just 2 different hospitals. One was like, I was 17 at the time, so it was a pediatric hospital. It was like slightly newer, fancier equipment, all that kind of stuff. One that was like an older hospital, didn't have as much equipment, but it was a little closer to where we were staying. So they're like, oh, just do the one that's closer. It's not that big a deal. I'm basically an adult. I'm not sure how much pediatric or not would affect me. The pediatric part is not what affected me. But I have the surgery, and the doctor's like, that was one of the hardest surgeries for this I've ever done. And I was like, great.
That's not anything I'd ever want my doctor to say.
Exactly, right? It took us like 4 hours. I was like, cool. That's awesome, bro. But and I start recovering, and I'm recovering really well. Not sarcastically, I start recovering really well. For anyone who's had like any kind of surgery like that, they give you this tube that you got to blow in to make this little ball go up, and I was like hitting it to the top. I was breathing well. That wouldn't last long, because they're like, and I obviously I had like, it wasn't morphine, but like morphine adjacent drip. I had the drip, the fashion, and I
respect the drip.
Yeah. They said, okay, it was like 4 days later, we're going to take the thing out. And I'd slowly been hitting this thing more and more, but I guess no one realized that, like, just in noting that, because the first night I barely hit it at all. Because they're like, this is awesome. This kid's doing great. So they take out the drip. I'm like, okay, I'm probably going to feel kind of crappy for a couple days. And, withdrawals, whatever. And then I get to go home. So it's sick. That night, or I guess that next morning, in a sense, it was like 1 a.m. My dad was staying with me at the time. My parents, because my brother, mom, and dad came to, also my parents, but my brother also came with us to Connecticut. So like one was staying with my brother at the place we were staying. One stayed with me at the hospital. My dad was with me that night. I wake up at 1 a.m. and cannot breathe.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it like really hurt to inhale. I always explain it like I was hyperventilating because I couldn't properly ventilate.
Wow.
So I was like,
oh my God.
That's
scary.
the worst feeling in the world.
Yeah, no. And then that next like day or whatever, because they put me back on the medicine and just like, okay, we're gonna figure something out. Give you a painkiller for now, and then we'll regroup in the morning or whatever. Everyone's back there, and they're like, put your arms up, put your, try like just trying to get me to not hurt, because by that next morning it's like, oh my God, I'm in so much pain, and it's not working. For what we later realized, I had fluid buildup that had, would come to it collapse my lung.
Wow.
Yeah. So I was like, great.
Man, I am not a doctor, but if I had a collapsed lung and they were telling me to put my arms up because it would help, I would
No,
be
that
pissed.
wasn't the doctors. That was like my parents.
Oh, okay.
They were-
Oh,
yeah.
okay. I was like,
Okay.
what?
Right. No. They were like, they didn't know what to do. But,
Yeah.
yeah, it turned into getting a million tests. I had to get, it got to the point where because of all this, I'm like crazy dehydrated, crazy tachycardic, right? For people
Oh.
who don't know, that's when your like heart
Mhm.
beats really fast. I was like 150 sleeping.
Wow.
Fever 104 for what we later found out, or not officially found out because they wouldn't tell us, but we kind of know. Essentially, what we didn't realize when I chose that hospital is that I got my surgery in July. In May of the year, the hospital had gotten penalized for outstanding post-surgical infections.
Wow.
Yeah, not fun.
Damn.
It, clearly that's what happened to me. And my mom had been keeping in contact with the parents of a girl that had gotten the same surgery as me, and she went in a couple days before me. She had like buildup in her abdomen or something like that. So I was like, okay, it's probably just one of those weird, fluid buildup. It's one of those weird 1 in 10 things. With my luck with health, it's just a thing. Whatever, we'll get it fixed. Not whatever.
Yeah.
Because it was the first time it had happened to anyone's lungs or anything
It's
like that
scary.
in the hospital. So I have to get a PICC line because they can't IV me anymore. I'm not able to fly home anymore, which that's a whole other part of this that
Man.
and I'm getting x-rays like every day now, and I don't even know why. Well, I know why, but
Yeah.
and the last ditch effort was that before I would have had to get another surgery, and I did eventually, spoiler, is that they tried to syringe it out of my back.
No, pass.
No, not fun.
No.
Not fun. It and I'll quick side story just with that. Obviously they're sticking a needle in your back and it's gonna hurt.
Mhm.
So it's like they give you a numbing thing. So the doctor is like, okay, this is gonna sting, but then hopefully you shouldn't feel much of anything. So they put the thing in my back, stings. I'm like, and then I'm like, okay, but it should be fine. They get the syringe needle and stick it. And I don't know if it hit a weird pressure point with me or something, but it felt like it, because he was like going slow and everything. What this felt like that.
Oh no.
It was like one of the worst pains. And I like
Yeah.
jolted like this.
Oh no.
Obviously with a needle in your back, you're not supposed to do that.
Yeah.
But I was like, that hurts so much. So they're like, okay, we're gonna do another numbing, which hurt again, but somehow far less than the other thing. The other thing hurt, and they weren't able to get anything out. And
Whoa.
so they wheeled me back to my room, and I have a breakdown, which I had been having daily at this point.
Yeah.
Looking cute, crying, and once again, another thing I hadn't realized that I'd been having throughout this whole ordeal, or rather, once my lung problems started, is, by the way, I had gotten moved to the ICU at this point. Apparently, I had a first ICU room and then a different one. I don't even remember one of those rooms.
Yeah.
So it's the whole thing. But they had apparently sneakily, like when I was asleep or they'd take them outside or something, they'd talk to my parents and be like, this has like happened to him before, right? This is like
The gaslighting begins.
exactly. And they're like, no, idiot, we would have told you.
They're like, but are you sure? I think we've seen you here before for the same. No, just kidding.
Right, exactly. It's like,
Can you just look
clearly
into
been
this camera and tell
totally
us?
across the country before, right?
Yeah.
And so after I had the whole syringe fiasco, and another random X-ray, which I don't remember why. But I come back, I'm crying, and the pain doctor, who I don't remember her name, she came in. I'm like composing myself. I'm also obviously like on a bunch of pain meds, so I'm like drugged up the whole time. So
Yeah.
I'm not coherent.
Yeah.
She's like, okay, Marco, I know this has been really hard. You got to tell me, this has happened before, right?
Wow, so sketchy.
And I was like, what? I don't think so. What? And in my head, because I'm like, whatever's like, has it? I don't even know anymore.
Wait, you were underage. Were your parents in the room when they were asking this?
Yes, they
Oh,
were.
okay. Sorry,
Yeah.
I went lawyer brain for a
Everyone
second.
was there. It was a family event.
Family gaslighting event. They're like, we need to get the whole family, get all the birds with one stone.
Here is love. Yeah, were they? Yeah, everyone was there because my brother had to end up flying home because it lasted that long. It was meant to be like a week. It was like a month.
Wow.
Yeah. So apparently I had to get another surgery. Yeah, it was called mini thoracotomy. Where essentially they went in here and got everything out. I had drainage tubes, which was the worst. Not because they hurt, they were just inconvenient.
And you were how old when this happened?
17.
What the hell?
This is the
That's it.
third surgery I've had in my life, because I had one before this whole thing in like 2016. About a completely different issue. But and other little procedures here and there, but like, and we're talking like actually they cut you open type things. I see your eyes.
G-Rex is she's
What's
having a
that?
hard time with this.
Welcome to my life.
I can't even laugh about it because, man,
Dude, please do.
I
There's
told-
so many funny stories about this whole thing. I'm just telling you the sad part. We'll get into the funny hallucinations.
I mean, I just feel horrible for you. Like, you're 17 years old. You got to go through all this shit because
Yeah.
people can't get their shit together. I mean, like when I was in the hospital, so I had a hysterectomy. I accidentally overdosed myself
Oh
with
my
the
god.
morphine pump.
Oh yeah.
They had to Narcan me twice.
Holy
Oh my God.
shit.
Yeah. I was I was lucky in the hospital in that regard because the thing was had like a timer.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like I could only do it however many, like, once an hour or however much it was. I forget how long it was between. But so like, but at the same time, fast forwarding a little bit, after I had to, because the first surgery was like it was glue. So it's like, in theory, it's as opposed to like stitches,
Okay.
it's like surgical glue.
Yeah.
So it's like, in theory, the aftercare is just like, okay, you have the bandage on for a bit, and then standard, don't lift heavy things. But the second surgery, I had staples. So, so I had to stay a few extra days to get my staples taken out. And we were in the hotel, and obviously I'd been on this medicine for however long I was, and they had tried a million different other pain medicines for me throughout the thing. And what I didn't realize were withdrawals were happening as I'm trying to wean off. So it was that scary moment of, luckily my parents were there and we had this realization all at once. It was like, they're like, Marco, it's dangerous, be careful. And I'm like, I yell, just please, someone just give me a pill. And we all just stop. And like, oh, okay. Yeah, no more.
Yeah.
So yeah. So in terms of the people not having their shit together, once I was having this surgery, the second surgery, I did this as if I realized the podcast.
He's pointing to his side.
Yeah, pointing to my scar. And my mom gave that pain doctor an earful. Apparently. Yeah. I wish I could have seen that. Because my mom is not someone who gets overly like loud mad.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, when she needs to, she can get stern, but like I am so curious to how that conversation went.
She went mama bear mode.
Yeah, and apparently the doctor was just like, I'm so sorry.
Sheesh.
He's like, please, I didn't mean it. And
I am not even sympathetic at all. Like, I'm like, fuck that doctor.
dude,
I don't
I'm
even know
like,
who it is. Like, no.
flip all of you.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's the traumatic side of it. There's more, but it's like
There's
that's dude, it's not the end of the traumatic side of it because this is more just like what the hell.
right.
But it just kind of was like the staff there was very strange sometimes because one, after I had this whole breakdown where I just got gaslit and then
Right.
realized I have to have a second surgery, I'm barely eating anything when I lost like 40 pounds
Wow.
throughout this whole
Jeez
thing.
Louise.
And you're
And
tiny to begin with, so I
I'm
can't imagine.
short, but I'm
like-
not. I was overweight, so it's like this. But even at that, it's like I wasn't losing it for the right reasons.
Right. I thought you were gonna try to paint that in a positive way. I'm like, how are you seeing the
No, I was
positive
like,
in
no, I'm not even
everything?
gonna
No.
try.
Yeah.
Yeah. I there was a point where due to the issue I had before, I was way skinny for a while because this is a tangent, I guess. But the thing I had before Mal's was this thing called pyloric stenosis. If anyone doesn't know what your pylorus is, it's this thing, I forget if it's at the top of your bottom of your stomach, but it lets like your food digest.
Mm.
Mine was closing, so I couldn't keep anything down to put it cleanly.
Mm-hmm.
And so at one point I was my height now, I'm 5'3". I'm a short guy, but
Mm-hmm.
I was like 90 pounds. I was a
Dang.
fucking twig. But yeah. Anyway, so they're trying to order me food at the hospital, and the cafeteria lady just hung up on my dad because they got the room wrong a million times, all this kind of thing. And then the big one after, because that's more just like funny.
Mm-hmm.
The big one after is that, as I mentioned, I had a PICC line. It's, kind of like a
Mhm.
big boy IV kind of thing. So there was this one nurse who's like, "Oh, I'll take that out for you," but it's not that simple. So they were like, "Hey, no, stop. We'll wait till the other person comes in," and he did. And luckily, because she was gonna just like basically
Pull
pull
it
it
out,
out and
yeah.
give me a bandage. No, this dude was like, "Put on a mask." It wasn't like
Mhm.
huge, but it was like, "Put on a mask, take this thing out, proper bandaging." I was like, "Okay," but then. So that nurse was apparently a little salty that we didn't let her take out my thing. She wheeled me out of the hospital, right?
Mhm.
And so it's raining outside, and obviously with all the stuff here, I probably shouldn't be in the rain.
Fucking
so-
hell.
You didn't melt, right?
No, okay, I didn't
Okay.
hit the rain, but only after so much arguing with between my mom and this lady, because she's saying, "Okay, no, my dad will just come around and we can stay under the hood." He's like, "No, just wait out here outside of this for some reason for a while." And I'm like still loopy. I'm like, "Mom, listen, she's a doctor." And,
Oh my gosh.
but my mom was right in the end, and it was simple. Just randomly stopped in the middle of the thing. I was strong enough to walk, so it wasn't that bad, but it was like, come on.
She's like, yeah, you got the rest.
Yeah, so
That's fucking wild.
those are the sad parts. We can talk about the funny stuff.
Golly, that's crazy. I
Yeah.
don't think I would have. Yeah, I mean, I don't know.
No.
I'm like hot. It still hits.
Right.
And I forget how much it was only, realistically, I'm 21 now.
Mhm.
It was only 4 years ago.
Yeah, but that's gonna
Um,
stick around for a long time.
Right. That
Oh,
was
yeah.
only a fifth of my life ago.
Yeah.
And the
Man.
aftermath of it was a lot. And right after was the pandemic. So I was like,
So true. Wow, that's
Dude,
brutal.
in your short life, you've had like all this adversity, but I mean, like I listen to your music. I know, don't be too surprised. I listen to the music because I told you I have very eclectic taste, right? It just depends on the day and maybe if I've had a gummy. or two. So, like your outlook on life it just amazes me, right? Like at my age, if I went through the amount of crap that you went through in the last 3 years, I'd be like, fuck it, I'm done. But like you just really impressed me with like your strive and your drive to just keep producing music and doing stuff that makes you happy.
Well, it's kind of like, once again, I'm not gonna front and be like it, like I mentioned, especially in like high school, and there's times now still, but like especially for a while when most of this wasn't figured out. Not to say that it fully is now, but like when it was a lot worse, it was like, yeah, it was really hard. I was really depressed, and I've tried to mask it best I can. And it's a weird complex I have sometimes, because I am naturally a very energetic person. That comes across in my music, and I try to have a very positive outlook on life. But there was a time where I didn't, but try to act like I did. And it almost, some people saw straight through it.
Yeah.
I think my really good friends did, but there was a time where it's not on YouTube anymore, but I had put out a song. I don't even remember at this point, but it was a song about my depression, that kind of thing. And I talk about, once again, trigger warning, but I talk about kind of suicidal thoughts within it. And I sent that to like a couple of my friends, being like, hey, here's a song. And they're like, that's a good song, man. I was like, oh yeah, it's what I've been going through. Like, whoa. And I was in a group chat at the time, and this one dude in the group chat who kind of didn't like me. And even this, I'm not going to name him, but this dude now is, he's cool. But he was like, what? I call bullshit. There's no way.
Ew.
Oh, no.
That makes me so mad.
Yeah, he was like, you put on these aesthetics and you want to be emo, but you're like the bubbliest person I know. And I was like, I'm gonna be real, I mask a lot.
Yeah.
Marco, I can identify with that because that's me. So how I grew up, right? We were taught to stuff all our shit as far down as we could and not talk about it. And Dirty Skittles, she knows. Like I put on the happiest face in the world, but on the inside I was dying. And so I wanted to know from you, do you think that your music was your way of finding your voice? Because for the longest time, I couldn't find my voice or my footing.
I was talking about this today. Because even now, it's something I'm growing past, but I have issues still where because of everything I went through and everything I essentially, put my family through, realistically, I spent, not because of them, I'll caveat this now, they were all amazing through all this, but because of it, I felt like a burden for most of my life. And through that now, especially with like my social media presence, which is me, let me be clear, but like anyone, you put on like a certain face that you want to present to the world. And it's only now that I'm starting, and it's even like baby steps for me, where it's like I'm very overly apologetic for myself a lot of the time. It's like the same, especially because of all the stuff in school. I had to be extra. If I was in physical classes, I had to be the goody two shoes, fucking, as best grades you can, or else I didn't get the leniency I needed. I would, I'd still be in, 10th grade right now.
Are you doing anything besides music to help with those feelings?
I go to therapy. It's something I've had on and off, and because I talked to you guys earlier, I think I went most of my life with undiagnosed ADHD. So I have that thing where it's like I forget, it's like someone says, hey, you should look into this. I'm like, yeah. And then 3 months later it's like, oh, what?
Right.
And then I'm like struggling. But I am currently now seeing someone, and that helps a lot. But it's just that thing of like trying not to over apologize for being happy and fun and nice, but also being willing to be like, I like being sassy to people.
Yeah.
Um, and just like making random jokes, or even just from different aspects of my life. I'm queer, so,
Mhm.
and at least fluid within my gender and that kind of thing. So that alone already creates a complex. But even just like, um, how much I'm willing to talk about that, how much I, am. It's a weird thing because of things like that, especially, and even like once again with my personality, that kind of thing. It seems so inconsequential. And it's things I'm either passionate about or think, yeah, this is cool. These are, if this was anyone else, I'd say, yeah, speak your truth, or, just be you. It's awesome. But when it comes to me, it's like I feel very afraid of like, well, yeah, but what if these people in my life don't like me? What if fucking business people are like, that's not how you should act, even though I work in the music business. So it's like, what? But it's just that thing of like being willing to put on your real face, or even just like the
Mhm.
not hi face,
Yeah.
right? That's what Clunk is about. If it's that, in a way it's about a performance persona, but it's also about being like, screw you, I don't care.
Yeah.
um and not even in a mean way, which is I guess weird in the way I phrased it, but um
No, I
I'm sorry I
wanted,
kind of rambled on about that, but it
no, don't
essentially,
apologize.
yes, there's a lot.
I I wanted to say something earlier on where, I mean, I want to thank you for being vulnerable, but more than that, like I appreciate that you admit to wearing a mask sometimes, because I think a lot of the guests that we've had in the past and people that we, just know in our day-to-day lives
Yeah.
that go through therapy and kind of work through that trauma, there's almost like this closure, but I feel like there's not always closure, right? And like we're human and we're complex and it's beautiful and it's not anything we need to apologize for. And
Yeah.
I think you just opening that up, that not everybody is going to have it all figured out, but we're going to present the best way we know how, right? Like
Yeah.
just opening up that discussion. I mean, I want to thank you for that, because I don't think anybody that we've
Yeah.
talked to in the past has ever said like, well,
No.
And obviously that's not to say everyone has faces they put on for different people. It's like you act nicer and more innocent around your grandma than you do like your best friend,
oh, not my
right?
grandma. No, just kidding. Yeah, no, I know what you're saying. Yeah.
But it's a you changed a little bit, but it's being the part that's been hard for me, and I'm not past it. I'm not gonna
Right.
act like I'm not, but the part I'm getting past is being like, so weird, because music, I don't feel this way. I feel so excited about putting out bratty songs about whatever, but in my actual life, I feel very meek
Yeah.
sometimes.
You're like free in your music.
Yeah. And then it's a whole thing where it's like, that's how your friends see you. So you're like, oh, Marco, he's the cute little whatever on the side. It was like, no. But then it's also that thing of like, you feel weird about subverting those expectations.
Mm.
You get lost in, this is a song. I need to stop saying this so I come up with lyrics. But jokes aside, it's like, it's a whole spiral that,
Yeah.
and I fall into it a lot. My brain goes in when I think about a topic that freaks me out. It's just like down, 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 down. Like you fall down the rabbit hole,
Mm-hmm.
which in some ways creates cool things because it creates these fun little interesting thoughts that maybe you wouldn't have had before. But it also means that it brings out a lot of insecurities you have about whatever topic.
Yeah. I love just in general when people can make art out of something ugly or something not as put together or something that you would never want to show somebody. You know, like I really, for me, that's where my favorite art is when
Yeah.
I can either hear a piece, see a piece that is absolutely just breathtaking to me that somebody can do
Yeah.
that. So
One of my favorite songs I've put out, it's not on like Spotify, but it's on SoundCloud. It's a song called Pretty Boy. The hook of the song is the pretty boy that ain't pretty.
yeah.
It delves a lot into, I guess, vanity in a sense, while also being heavily insecure, and it goes into everything I just said. It's the obviously a lot of songs about like, I'm worried about my fucking hair or whatever, but it is also about like walking in trying to be like, oh, he's so cute, but also I'm like really fucked up inside.
You're
You
just
know?
complex.
You're complex.
Yeah,
And
you're not fucked up.
We're complex beings. No one's just one thing. We're
Yeah.
not just Muppets in this world. We don't just like cookies.
That's true.
well, I do just like cookies.
But that's not your only facet.
But I just love your perspective on life and like all the shit you've gone through, and you're only
Yeah.
21, right?
Mhm.
I can't wait to see, where you're at 10 years from now, because I get really excited. Like I want to see you again in a year
Yeah.
and see where you're at. Like, what have you done?
It's like check-ins.
You're like part of the family now.
Yeah, you're part of the family.
Lights go down, all eyes are on me. I spin around, do you like what you see? Better watch out, cause you know that I'll be jumping like a punk, make the beat go.
It's okay to be not okay. Just make sure you're talking to someone.